Detroit concepts, we take IVAN2104 to the Dyno. Let's go. Motorsports, Speed and Custom, who's generously allowed us to use the Dyno and their operator, Tom Nelson, who's a friend of mine in shots from way back. This guy here has done a lot of work with SHOs, Mustangs, Broncos, lots of cool stuff, long-time friend. So, we've got everything strapped down on the Dyno, ready to make some pulls. Now, you guys, any guesses?
40, 50 horse.
50 horse.
63.
63. I was going with 63, 64. The internet, you guys on the Facebook page, you've given us some guesses as well. And, well, let's see. Mark Mullen, that's you, Mark. 63, same as Sean. Blair initially guessed 78 in the flywheel, but brought it back down to 56 to the back tire. And Jason Eckert, you, New Zealand, I remember. Yes, yep, our New Zealand follower. He has 59 horsepower. So, we'll get everything going, do some warm-ups. We're going to see just how close all of us were. We've made it back from our trip to Lloydminster, where we put IVAN2104 on the dyno to establish a baseline. We did this directly because searching on the internet, we had no luck finding any dyno curves or any other reliable reporting that would let us know how much power the vehicle made and where it made that various power. Sean, what do you think about how the power curves developed?
It's interesting. Some people who claim the Lada engines are a refined tractor engine in some respects are not far off with the way it made power. That was the most surprising thing. It does not make power anywhere near the same way that the factory numbers claimed, or in anywhere near the same RPM the factory claimed. It's significantly lower, and revving it beyond 5,500 RPM ever is a waste of your time.
Yeah, the power just falls off dramatically. We noticed that our both horsepower peak and our torque peaks happen very, very much earlier than what we're led to believe from the factory specifications.
Yeah, we got peak torque at 1,800 RPM, and it slowly tapered from there, and we got peak horsepower at 4,500 RPM, and at 5,500 RPM it almost plateaued to nothing.
So, along with the baseline testing, we also tried a couple little hot rodder tricks. We pulled the air cleaner off.
Made no difference at all.
Nope, it didn't care. It was within 1 horsepower of the previous runs. It just didn't seem to matter whether it had a air cleaner and a filter or whether it was running with a bare carburetor.
Yeah, which is surprising. Usually that makes some kind of difference in one way or another.
Certainly. We also tried advancing the ignition timing. That didn't really seem to do anything helpful.
It didn't care. It changed nothing. It made the same power at the same RPM. We might as well have not touched it. We wasted our time trying to adjust it.
We also added 91 octane just in case there was any detonation worries when we advanced the timing.
That was a non-issue. We
Non-issue.
really shouldn't have ran the 91 octane. Probably would have made a little more power on regular fuel.
And in Canada, our basic octane that we can find anywhere at the pump, the lowest grade, is typically an 87 octane. So even still, that's well above what the car was originally set up to run with the factory 76.
76. Which, that could account for the difference in power from stock numbers to that. The lower the octane rating, the more thermal energy fuel has, so it would be capable of making more power with shittier fuel.
Now, we are aware that the numbers are low, and there's probably going to be some upset folks.
They're very low.
Yeah, they're quite low. And with that said, the dyno testing was done both to the wheels, and it was done to the SAE most modern spec. I'd have to look. It was like the J1849, but it would be the same specification that any North American vehicle would be tested to today. So that is a more stringent specification than the original factory one would have been when the car was originally certified. However, we can compare it directly across modern vehicles, and this is really important. As we modify the vehicle, we'll have a real-life modern standard to figure out just how much power we're building.
Yeah, and what we can base it against. We know what modern stuff make.
Other issues that we found was heat soak.
Major heat soak problems with it sitting on the dyno doing multiple passes while also messing with the air to fuel through the carb and the timing. The engine got hot. Not hot like boiling over, like the exhaust baking the intake manifold and boiling fuel in the carburetor hot. Caused massive breakup problems and misfire problems under load, and we had to let the car cool down for nearly an hour before we could actually start doing dyno runs again.
Yeah, so that's something we're going to investigate further in the future, look at trying to separate the exhaust heat from affecting the intake manifold as much, because it's a serious problem.
Yeah.
And you noticed that during summer driving, when it got above 30 degrees Celsius.
Sitting in hot traffic at a light, it'll start to stumble and run like crap, and I'd actually have to pull the choke out to richen the fuel back up so that it would even drive away. It would get too lean from boiled fuel.
One final point, actually, we did run down a test to figure out how much power the driveline was absorbing. Now, you've done a little bit of changes to the fluid fill in your driveline.
Yeah, it's running synthetic fluid in the rear differential. The engine is running AMSOIL full synthetic. And the transmission is no longer running 80W90. With the 80W90, it didn't really shift real great, and it does not like the really cold weather in Canada, as well as other places in the world, I'm sure. So I'm actually running regular 15W40 engine oil in it, which was recommended to me by a dirt track stock car racer, and it shifts great, runs better, and it actually doesn't have as much power loss in the cold when you first initially try to drive it.
So with respect to all of those fluid changes, synthetic lighter grade fluids from the original factory spec, we found that the driveline absorbs 16% of the engine's brake horsepower. So you can take our numbers, we'll also display them as well, and work them back to the flywheel. So that's also important as well. As we go down the road, we can test to the rear wheels again and also infer what our flywheel numbers are.
Yep, and really 16% is pretty good. That's about on average with most anything else that runs a manual transmission.
Sure, the old benchmark that was always said was 15, and
Oh yeah, about 15 was always a good guess.
this tested out specifically to 15.96 in small change, so it rounds up to 16 pretty handily. So that was really good to know. To close out, we'd like to thank Tom as well as Randy at Boundary Motorsports Speed and Custom for letting us use their equipment today. It was really great, and they just let us do whatever we needed to do and provided Tom to operate the dyno and basically be a resident expert on the equipment.
Great bunch of guys and true car guys. They loved it.
Yeah.
I've never seen people so excited about such low horsepower numbers on a dyno before.
Yeah, it was a really great experience. If you're local to Lloydminster, Alberta or Saskatchewan, being the border town, drop in, say hello, see what they can do to help you out, because in the back there's a whole bunch of really cool cars and engine builds going on that we just didn't have time to cover while we were testing. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.
Later.